Board for Success Express, your business, career, and financial radio magazine. Hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio Success Express Show with Nancy and Lisa, the mother-daughter travel team and publishers of the digital interactive Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, as well as Parks and Travel magazine. You can see them both at BigBlendMagazines.com. Very excited to have Sarah Elliston back on today's show, and she's going to be talking about how to give negative feedback to a difficult person at work. Sarah's the author of the book Lessons from a Difficult Person, How to Deal with People Like Us. Of course, get on Amazon. And she's also a faculty member of the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory. She's a workshop leader and trainer who is certified in values realization and also parent effectiveness training. Her book, like I was saying, is on Amazon, but I encourage you to go to her website, sarahelliston.com. Also see her articles up on blendradio.and-tv.com. You'll see her in our expert department. So welcome back, Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for inviting me back.
Hey, it's always fun. It's always fun, and especially talking about feedback, negative feedback, when someone tells you, okay, you got to fix this at work, and you've got a great article up on our site now. It's called At Work, 6 Steps for Giving Negative Feedback to a Difficult Person, because that can actually be kind of scary to have to be the person to do it.
Yes, usually we are taught in our culture not to say anything to somebody that's going to hurt their feelings or be too, I don't know what the word is, what's perceived as abrasive or confrontive or whatever. Somewhere along the 3rd or 4th grade, people seem to learn to say, it's not my fault, I didn't do it, she made me do it. It's not fair that you're giving me, I have to stay inside and clap erasers, whatever it is that you didn't want. It's not my fault. And so we really don't anticipate in a positive way having to say to someone, your work is not up to snuff.
That's kind of like, you're not doing as well, but it's important for the business to have that,
Yeah, totally.
And is it a lot of times, it could be really something to do with how their actual work where they can improve. Like maybe they're, if they're in customer service, they're not talking quite correctly to the clients. But sometimes this negative feedback could be just how they're handling, how their communication is in regards to the rest of the employees.
A lot of times, someone who's perceived as difficult is someone that refuses to hear any kind of feedback unless it's positive. Or is argumentative or negative or abrupt. Usually a difficult person is, they're very opinionated. Somebody that's perceived as being difficult is opinionated. And so we don't want to say anything to that person because we know they're going to snarl right back at us.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But I was just, when you were saying, for example, I was just thinking of a phone call I had today from, I won't say who, it was a company, and they had asked me to call them back for some reason. And the woman said, well, now, to whom do I have the pleasure of speaking to? And I said, well, you had a 2 and a 2, one at the beginning, at the end, you don't need them both. And she did not like that. But she said, oh, I guess you're right, or something. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm an ex-English teacher, you have to forgive me. But she, it would sort of knock, anyway, but I was teasing. I wanted to say, read your script, lady, but I was originally so thrilled saying, to whom do I have the pleasure of speaking? I thought, well, here's somebody who's really literate, but no, she was not only not literate, she read it incorrectly, so that annoyed me. I am, as we already know, I am a recovering difficult person, so take your life in your hands when you call me about things like that.
She could have said, what the heck do you want?
Yeah.
Well, she did. She went on to ask how she could serve me, which was
wow.
She did not take it, she did not grump at me. She said, well, you're absolutely right or something. So it worked out. It was just, that's the kind of thing. If I was in business, I would not have done it. It was not a business call. I think they were trying to sell me something. And the longer she talked about what they were potentially going to sell me, the less I wanted it. So, but it didn't have anything to do with her inability to read her script. So.
Well, I think this is interesting too. I think one day I'd like to do a segment where we talk about how do we handle those companies on the other side, where when you're dealing with customer service and they only give you like, here, you've got 30 seconds with this person, then you get jolted over here. Everybody's telling you a different story.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? All of that stuff. And then people, you're going to get difficult no matter who you are. I mean, it's like,
sure.
At the end of the day, and then how do they handle it when the client's being difficult, or difficult to them? Because difficult is interesting. It's, it could be that it's just, this is a pain in the butt to somebody. So whether or not, maybe you're hired to handle that all day and you still become difficult over that, because there's some jobs that are difficult, like having to handle people that call up screaming all the time.
Yeah.
How do you not just turn around and tell people to, shut up?
I know people who are hired because they're able to listen so well to people who are complaining. And I have actually paid attention since I realized that I was a difficult person. I have paid attention when I have called someone and I've been angry because they X, Y, and Z, for whatever reason, I wasn't getting what I had been told I was going to get. Like right now, my doctor prescribed a particular medicine, and I got a text from the pharmacist that it was, going to be a charge of $125. And so I called the doctor's office and said, I'm not going to pay that. Find me something cheaper. And his response was, did you talk to the pharmacist about that? And I said, no, I thought that was your job to know this stuff.
See, yeah, there you go. It's like,
find out. A little bit difficult, maybe.
But we have a friend that's a pharmacist, and she's in a different country, but she used to say to us that doctors really know very little about the medicines that they prescribe, and that it's way better to talk to the pharmacist about what you're about to take, what you're about to pay for, and they would be able to recommend something for you that would probably work far better and quicker than your doctor. How about that?
If it was easier for me to walk in and talk to my pharmacist, I would do that. But I'm now at the point where I drive up to a kiosk and I call them on the phone and tell them who I am and what I want, and I don't even have to go into the store to pick up my medicine. So, but my reaction was that then after getting the second text that my prescription was ready and it's going to be another $125, and I thought, well, fiddlesticks,
Yeah.
So we hadn't had any progress there. Then I got a letter from the Medicare people saying, by the way, the medicine that's been prescribed for you is not covered on your plan, and we suggest this, or this. And so I called the doctor's office and said, now here's what we're doing now. But I am more patient about it. I mean, my reaction is, never mind, I just won't take it. I'll just live with the symptom that I'm living with, and it's not debilitating to this. It's not going to or shorten my life, that kind of thing. Initially, I was really annoyed. My reaction was, why am I doing this homework for you? You're the doctor, and I understand what your friend is saying is that it's my job to be informed. I understand that, but initially it really annoyed me.
Yeah.
She just always felt that the pharmacists were more on it as far as what drugs are for what person and why than the doctors. I don't know, and there's a lot to do with sometimes free prescription or free test drugs that they give doctors free samples, and somehow you end up with one, and then it's like when you go to refill it, you're in shock.
Yeah.
We'll have to ask Dr. Jackie about this when she comes on
Yeah,
the next
that's
segment.
good.
We'll ask her, but this is the interesting part because emotions are tied to both parties, the difficult and the non-difficult. Maybe they're two, maybe the difficult person is getting feedback from another difficult person. So that could get interesting.
Yes.
But
Yes.
emotions, and you talk about that in step one, if you're going to be the one giving the feedback, like, hey, this is time for your 30-day update and see how you've done it in work. And maybe there was something like negative that happened. As a kid, like when you're raising kids, and I've never done it, but from what I've, heard from families and friends, and Nancy is like, if your child is misbehaved, you need to nip it in the bud right now and not wait, especially if they're real little, because they're not going to know what you're talking about.
That
It's
was
like,
one of my issues with the performance reviews that I used to get, was that I remember one of my supervisors who said, well, you did this and this and this. And I said, what? She said, I said, when did I say that to her, or whatever it was? And she said, back in April. And we're talking, it was February of the next year. My anniversary date was February 1st. And I said, are you kidding? And yeah, she's been mad at me since April, and you didn't tell me?
oh,
And my supervisor thought I was being a little bit difficult. She was uncomfortable giving me negative feedback because she thought I would snarl at her, and I didn't snarl at her because of what that I shouldn't have said this, whatever it was. What I was upset about was she waited a full year to tell me.
That's funny.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because she was so timid.
Yeah.
And
that's not good.
No, but I think my point in the article and what you're referring to is we don't want to go into a conversation with somebody anticipating their negative reaction, because a difficult person probably will argue with you initially. That's just sort of the nature of the beast. And so anticipating that they're going to argue, then we go into the conversation already tense and uncomfortable. And the whole point of both my book and the article is if you're able to be specific about what the difficult person has done. For example, when she said to me what you said to Mrs. So-and-so, when you said da-da-da, whatever it was, I've completely forgotten it. I just remember looking at her and saying, are you kidding? You waited 10 months to tell me this? She was very specific and concrete about what I had said and how this person had reacted. And my question was, why didn't she come to me? Well, she came to my boss because she thought my boss should know about it. And so my reaction was, my poor boss really doesn't know what she's doing, does she? Because she doesn't know she didn't come to me until it was performance review time, which is way too late. So do it timely, do it with concrete and specific information, and be prepared for some kind of a reaction, and don't let it get your goat, if you will. Don't let it bother you. Expect the person to argue with you. And that's where I think the genius of this process is to say, yes, it's having this impact on other people, though. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know you were doing it? I didn't even remember saying this thing, whatever it was I said. But do you know you're doing whatever the behavior is, or not doing it? If this is corrective, saying you're not entering these things correctly. But you wouldn't wait until performance review or 90-day review or whatever to tell someone they're making, very specific mistakes in terms of documentation or record keeping. You'd get to them the very next day, wouldn't you?
Right.
That's more of a here's how we spell cat. This is the way we spell cat. And that's not really negative feedback as much as it's corrective. Here's how we do this particular task. But when it's listening to people who are, angry customers, and then you're listening to your staff person not represent the company the way you want them to, and not really listening to them. And again, you wouldn't want to wait very long before you remind them or point out to them that this kind of reaction loses business for the company.
I think that's important because I know that, when you're running a company in the management side, you've got to let people know, like when they first start, this is how we present ourselves, this is the task. And there's a
Mhm.
training thing that should happen, otherwise people don't know. Sometimes it's dress code. Hey, we don't put earrings, whatever you put, earrings through our nose. We don't chew gum or whatever. I can't stand the chewing of gum.
No, that's
And I
gross.
remember working in a company that, that was banned because the clientele were of an older generation, that was a rude, too casual, rude kind of thing. It's kind of like working in a bank. You're not, you go up to the teller and she's chomping on bubble gum and blowing bubbles. That's not professional. So the first time round, go, hey, this is not how the company does this, because it does affect our customers in this way. And so in that way, it's just being an informant, really, right? Versus
Mhm.
being like, that when you come to work, you really stink. You need to take a bath, or whatever it is. Just, you know what I
Well,
mean? There's these certain
Nice.
rules, but if they do it again, like then it becomes a stronger thing. That's
right.
when you get
Yeah.
into.
Well, sometimes it's good to, if you're talking about a work environment, when you hire somebody, to give them the information up front, like this is how you have to dress, like have a dress code, have
Sure.
a behavior code, and if this were to happen, this is how you handle it.
Hmm.
This is how you do it, so you don't have to deal with them doing something you don't want them to do. Yeah, I mean,
Usually,
it's
I think.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it won't solve everything because people are human and they're people, but it will at least give you a background of, hey, remember our standards for the company is this.
Hmm.
Remember, this is how we do that. And if you do it as soon as a problem happens, then you don't have to wait a whole year while the person's having bad behavior, thinking it's okay because nobody said anything.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking that before we started talking tonight, I was wanting to remember the statistic that someone in human resources told me is that 90% of the people, 95% of the people who are fired have no idea that it's coming. And
Wow.
it's, well, even though they've gotten
Mm.
something in writing and
Mhm.
in according to the records, someone has said to this person, if you don't change, you're going to lose the job. They're
Mm.
still they're still surprised when they
Denial.
are actually fired because they don't believe it. They just say, "Oh, that was just that cranky old customer or whoever." I mean, you don't fire me for that. And that's why we want to have very concrete feedback, and we want to keep saying, "Do you realize it's having this impact?" And
Mm-hmm.
this is not an impact that we want. A lot of times it has to do with relationships among colleagues. But as you say, um, we certainly don't want to say things that are going to alienate the customers. And you probably have training for people
Mm.
who are on the phone because you know that the potential of an angry customer exists. But what do you do when someone starts gossiping or criticizing or judging other uh, colleagues or members of the team or people in an office? That's really tricky to sit someone down and say, um,
Mhm.
I understand, I hear you criticizing so and so all the time, and that really makes our environment negative, and it certainly isn't helping your relationship with her, and that way it slows down our ability to work together. Do you know you're doing it? Because I 9 times out of 10, someone who is consistently critical like that doesn't know they're doing it. So what, do you know you're doing it? No, I don't know. So, okay, then can I remind you the next time you do it? That's
Mm-hmm.
one thing. And the other thing is like, oh, well, that's just who I am. I've just always been that way. My family's always been negative. It's just who I. You say, well, that may be, but you can't be that way here. And
Mhm.
may or may not be able to be that blunt. But I have heard people be that blunt. My favorite example was working in a volunteer center and hearing the woman in the cubicle next to me who was interviewing someone who wanted to do volunteer work. I heard her say to him, "You understand that if you volunteer, you're going to have to bathe on a regular basis."
Mm.
Wow.
See,
Oh my
see,
God, did she really say that? And later I said to her, you really have courage. And she said, well, he needed to know that. And he said, yes, he understood. So I don't know.
Wow.
So
what?
that's always, it's been, that's something that I keep in my head when I think, oh my God, I can't say that. I think, well, I can say it. It's a logical thing. If you're going to be coming into somebody's office every week to volunteer, you have to bathe on a regular basis, because a lot of people find people who don't bathe to be uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable. It doesn't smell good.
Well, I like the part, your statistic. I think it's really true too, because about people not knowing it's coming, even
Right,
though
because
that's why you have to be consistent. Like, I know that in relationships, you tell the guy, like, listen, if you're checking
Oh,
other women out while we're having dinner and you keep doing this, like, I'm not going to be here anymore because I'm not into that
exactly.
kind of thing. And then one day you turn around and say, we're done now. It's over. And they always, and I like to do it on holidays. I do. It's a personal thing of
nice,
mine.
Lisa.
Well, I've been single for
It's
years. There's a
true,
reason.
actually.
But it's a thing of, like, I've told you, like, this isn't working for me with this. You may want to do that, but I don't want to see it, or whatever it is. And if one day you do leave, and I know this, a lot of my girlfriends say the same thing. I told him, or even guys with the women, it seems to be the same thing. Saying, hey, one day the person stands up and said, that's it, I've had it. And they're in total shock. Like, I never saw
Yeah,
this coming, but I'm like, I
no,
told you, you know?
I think there's that saying, and anything for a quiet life. So we kind
exactly.
of we stay there, like, okay, I don't want to cause any trouble, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. And then the boiling point gets reached, and then it becomes a bigger deal than it actually is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, my
So
my my supervisor said, the one I said to, why did you wait so long? She said, well, it was just one person and it wasn't that big a deal. You weren't going to get fired over it, but you needed to know. And I said, yeah, but she's been mad at me for a year. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I wouldn't have known. I didn't pay enough attention to recognize that she was mad at me, but I would have tried to do something about it to at
Mhm.
least make peace with her if I had known. I don't know. But I think that's why, that's one of the reasons why I developed a workshop and ended up writing the book, because we are taught not to be um,
mm,
up front. We're taught. I mean, how many people would say to another person, you'll have to bathe on a regular basis if you want to work this job or volunteer in this place? I mean, it just sort of catches you off guard, doesn't it?
But it happens, and that's the truth.
yes,
And this is an interesting thing, because I've read a lot of your workshop notes, and I think it's really interesting because, and you do this in your book too, like exercises, write things down. Does that help the process too, in regards to in management, working with people, whether it's, I know you've done a lot of work in volunteer leadership, and leadership is to have people write things down, because then it's almost like they're telling themselves, oh, look, I need to improve here.
That's my experience. I don't know
mm,
whether maybe somebody likes to talk into a dictaphone, record their thoughts rather than writing them down. But I'm old fashioned, and I think when I write, it impacts my brain more than if I just say it out loud.
Mm.
And I have exercises in the book and in the workshops to just help people clarify what it is that they really, really want, or what they think
Mm.
about a particular topic. Excuse me. And I certainly anticipate that those things would change over time.
Mm. And
But go ahead.
I was going to say writing it down, yeah, because then it's almost like a track record. To me, even reading your article, and everyone, Sarah's article on this is up on blendradioandtv.com, and you have these 6 steps, and I like it because you kind of have this almost like a consistency in the messaging, so that it's not like I told you once and that's it. There's a consistency of letting them know you're kind of watching that part of the behavior. And with that, you still have to balance the good, right? That, hey, you're doing good on this. You got to balance
Well,
the
yeah.
feedback.
Well, some people have been taught that they should do what's called a sandwich, where you say you do this really well, but you don't do this well, but you do this really well. And I don't advocate that. I think you start off with all the things the person is doing that you like, and then share with them where their behavior is a problem. And then when they argue with you or respond in whatever defensive way that they're going to, you say, yeah, I hear you. Remember, I'm on your side here. I believe you want to work here, and you are a good worker. And in this particular case, it's not working. Did you know that you're doing this? Do you understand its impact? So that you're repeating, you stay on message in the sense that no matter what excuse or what response they have, excuse me, um, about why they are the way they are, that the response is, yes, I hear you, and it needs to change if you want to stay here. I mean, it comes down to that. I was lucky because the person who told me I was difficult pointed out my behavior, and the minute I found out about it, I went, oh, okay, I'll change. Now, I'm sure I didn't change instantly, but I really tried. And I certainly didn't become the most undifficult person in the world. I think probably people still find me difficult, but I am so more apt to say, wait a minute, is what I said too aggressive, too fat, too pushy? Are we okay? When I'm looking at relationships and, people that I care about, not necessarily someone who's trying to sell me something.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. Work is a bunch of relationships, in in a lot of fields, right? Whether it's a client, employees, colleagues, peers, there's relationships. And I think that the emotions get involved a lot of times. And, I've had bosses that are just absolute raging lunatics, and, I don't do well with that because I'll rage right back at them. Or I'll just walk out and just leave. I won't, that's just a personal thing. Don't talk to me like that. I'm done. I just don't do it. I don't, why, so, you know what I mean? So I think it's really important when with what you've done with your book and the workshops and like this article and conversation, is it takes out that combativeness and stays, like we were saying, stay on message and not always take it personally, because something that's irritating to so and so over here may not be irritating to the other person over there, and it could just be like, we just want this to be a better running ship. It might not bug you, if there's dirt on the car, but for somebody else, oh my gosh, I can't get in a dirty car. Everybody's different, and so you're balancing everybody's stuff. No one can be perfect, no one can like everybody, or but there's that balance to be had. And I think that's what's interesting about this, because I think for the person giving out the feedback or criticism or overview or whatever it's going to be, they have to stay emotionally sound so that it helps with the other person. And like I said, what you're saying, I'm on your side here, because you want the person to do well. It's like when you do public speaking, your audience wants you to do well because they don't want to sit through something boring.
Well, true.
And you don't need to picture everyone naked either. No, none of us want to see that.
I know that. Yeah, really, that's such.
Well, it's painful for an audience to listen to someone say every 5 seconds. And I've been to conventions where we're sitting listening to a keynote speaker, and everybody at our table, having had whatever meal, we're all marking down the numbers of times this person says because there's you get sidetracked. You can't hear the message. And I don't know who's coaching this speaker, but someone needs to say, do you know you say like every third word? And if you do, what are you doing to change that? If you're going to be doing a lot of public speaking anyway. But yes, to stay on message, and also to recognize that whatever response is coming back at you, it's not personal. The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is really resource that can be really helpful. One of the agreements is to be impeccable in your word. Another one is not to take things personally. Another is to always do your best. And then the fourth agreement is to not make assumptions.
Mm.
When someone raises their voice, we tend to think they're upset. And sometimes they think they're being passionate. So they don't realize it's scaring other people or making other people uncomfortable. They think this is what you do when you care about something. It may be the way that they were their family, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
So the giver of the feedback. So what do we say? We say do it consistently. Keep it focused on the behavior. Ask them if they know they're doing it. Because if it is a relationship thing or issue that is driving the rest of the staff crazy, this person may not know they're doing it. You know, if it's every 5 seconds or whatever, you know.
Mm.
So ask if they know that if they're doing it, and then do you know that it's having an impact on the rest of us or on our customers, or we notice that it's not your sales aren't as good. I tried to do for-profit work once as a salesperson on the phone, and I could not come up with the quick, well, if you don't want this program, what if we sold you this one? It took me months to realize that my colleagues who were doing all this selling, they were making it up. And I had been given a script, and I had been told this is what you can offer. And it never occurred to me that I could just make something up just to make the sale.
Oh, wow.
You know,
No, but I mean, wow, that making it up.
Well,
That's
they
not,
made it in terms of, I'll sell you this much space for this amount of money. And they managed to do that enough times so that they were able to sell enough spaces. And I wasn't very good at it because they weren't interested in what I had to offer, and I wasn't knowledgeable enough to say, well, what if we did it this way? What if we did it this way? And make up the numbers. I'm uncomfortable with numbers, and so it wasn't a good spot for me because I couldn't make those amounts up out of the clear blue. And I listened the last couple of weeks that I was working on it. There was a woman sharing the office with me that I hadn't met before, and I listened to her too. And I said, where did you get that number? She said, I just made it up. I said, well, what?
That doesn't sound very good.
That doesn't sound that ethical, you know.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very.
Meaning that, but well, ethical. I mean, she made the sale. You know, the person bought
but
the
the person on the other hand didn't really know what they were getting then. If the numbers were made up, it sounds like
the cost. The cost? She was going to get so much space of advertising for such and such a cost, and then and I thought, well, I thought it had to be 10, and she did it for 8. She said, well, if you do enough of them at 8, you make up what you would have done if you did 1 at 10. And just, you know, I couldn't do the numbers that quickly in my head.
The negotiation part, yeah.
Yeah, and I just wasn't any good at it, and that was just a fact. And my supervisor came in and said, we need to let you go. We're losing money on you. And I said, oh, but you said I could get trained again or something. And I didn't want to leave. I wanted to succeed, but I wasn't good at it.
But this is a thing about negative feedback. It's sometimes that is feedback, yes, it'll help you improve in the position that you're in. And sometimes, if it's a negative for both parties, it'll prompt you to go somewhere else and find something that maybe you are better suited for. Whatever the issue could be from the feedback, it could be something that you don't or won't change. You know what I mean? It could be, just like you're saying, I'm not good at the numbers and I don't see that getting any better with me. So I need to go find something else, and then you'll be cozy in that spot. You know what I mean?
Yes,
so I think it's also that is about learning, you know, are we good at something? When I sold cars for a month, and I shouldn't say I did that because I didn't sell anything because I was bored. You know, I'm a very proactive person, and you stand on the lot, and they wouldn't let me go to do like chamber meetings or anything like that so I could network. and you will stay here and do this. And I was like, you know what? I can't, I was so bored. And then by
Yeah.
the time someone drove in, to go and look at a car, I could care less. I'm like, okay, my energy, my enthusiasm is gone. Or
Right.
people jump the customer. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's
Mm.
like they jump him. Or you see the way the person drives in, you're like, I ain't going in no car with that person. Uh-uh.
Oh.
That's a whole other thing. I remember a lady hitting the curb and then coming in. I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not doing it.
That's
You know
funny.
what I mean? So,
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
I went into a to buy a car once. I thought to myself, tonight I'm really going to make a decision, and I went into a dealership, and none of the whatever the salespeople wanted to talk to me. It was kind of a gray, rainy night, and I had on probably an old coat, and I got the feeling they said, "Here comes this little old lady. She's not going to buy anything anyway. We're not going to help
Oh,
her." And so I walked around and looked at cars for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I left. And I thought, well, I'm never going back there. That's for sure.
Exactly. Well, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you shouldn't never prejudge
that's
your
wrong.
customer. I know multimillionaires
Mhm.
that dress like homeless people and
Sure.
do
Yeah,
it for a
yeah.
reason. So it's kind of you can't judge that. One thing I did want to touch on before we close here is I recently witnessed a lady go to her boss, and she was looking for more work and longer hours and stuff. And then they were talking, and then she turned and she says, I do want to ask, is there anything I can improve on in my position that I am doing that I can improve on? And I thought, how proactive is that? That is
That's
very
cool.
cool. And that is opening the door to speed up that ladder. You know what I mean? You're now going, I'm open to fix whatever I'm doing wrong. I want to be the best at what I'm doing. I want more hours, so I need to do it. And she did get some constructive criticism that she may never have gotten and had to wait that year. So I think sometimes the employees should be going in and asking for feedback. Unless you did something really bad. If you stole money from the petty cash drawer, you got to wait and put it
You're
back
out.
in.
Yeah.
You're out.
Maybe this is going to sound bad, but I don't think there are very many men that would go in and ask what they could do better. Just this sort of culturally, that's just not something that they would be encouraged to do. Now, and I think it's a useful thing to do.
Mm.
I don't disagree with you. But what went through my head when you were saying it was, yeah, women will do that because they are always looking for ways to grow and change. But men are taught not to admit that anything might be wrong.
I wonder if that's also changing though, generational wise.
I would love
Um,
it if it is.
I think our roles are growing and molding and morphing and changing up a little bit. And I think some of those are very old school beliefs. And the more women are growing in the workforce, the more that balance is shifting. And I think it's more competitiveness is happening. Um, we're proving as women that we can do everything from being Rosie the Riveter to, being a CEO of a bank or whatever it is, or a construction company for that matter, whatever it is, we're seeing those changes. I think it's also interesting with the millennials moving in on their views of how to get things done. And the internet has changed things on how people communicate and do. Sometimes you get feedback just through an email, and I don't think that's really, it's good to get it in regards to you have something in writing and you can look back upon, but I think communication should be one-on-one, even if it's over like a video call.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, especially if it's something that you want the person to change.
Yeah.
That's having a real impact on other people or the customer.
Hmm.
Then you really need to do that in person because you it, nobody likes to hear that what they're doing isn't working or that they're doing something wrong that they didn't know anything about, or even worse, they didn't know they were doing it. No one likes to hear that. And we have a friend who calls constructive criticism, he calls it constructive criticism.
Mm.
He doesn't think it's valuable. And I said, well, what about corrective feedback? He said, okay, I can live with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's to improve, you know?
Yes, yes.
I mean, that's
But
what we do. It's a diagnostics test for your career. That's how, you got to look at it, but it's hard not to take things personally because if you're
well,
the one doing the wrong thing, you're going to be all like, I thought I was doing this all perfect. And then you're going to pout and feel upset. But the best thing is to just, okay, well then pout, stomp your feet and move on and try and fix and change it, because then everybody will get back to being happier when that happens, and more
Sure.
productive depending on what it is. But good, really good steps. And again, everyone, you can see this in blendradioandtv.com. Also see the article in the April-May issue of a Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. And of course, keep up with Sarah. Go to sarahelliston.com and also get her book, Lessons from a Difficult Person, How to Deal with People Like Us. I'm going to say, hey, you know what? We're all at a level of being a difficult person. I don't know anybody who's not a difficult person. Maybe I just think everyone's difficult, Sarah. You know?
Maybe.
No, I think it's beneficial for us all. And of course, we would love you to stay tuned to Big Blend Radio. Go to bigblendradio.com. You can access the podcast through all kinds of outlets, whether it's Apple, Google, Spreaker, Stitcher, YouTube, SoundCloud, iHeart, Spotify, blah, blah, blah. It's there. So thank you for joining us here on Big Blend Radio. We always love to play music for you, our listeners, and also for our guests. And today is a song that Sarah is familiar with. We've played it before for her, but it's called Be Kind, because it makes sense. No matter what you do in these kinds of, feedback and all of that stuff, is to be kind. And it's a song, it's a title track from Borgo's album, and you can go to called Be Kind, borgoband.com. Thanks so much, Sarah.
Can I just say one little thing?
Yes.
I think my supervisor thought she was being kind by not telling me about the complaint that someone had made. She thought that was kind, and I think it is very kind if you give people the feedback they need right away.
Right. But when there's an emotional outburst, right? So if somebody had a fight in the office.
Not in front of other people and that kind of stuff, but within 24 hours.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And that's a good point. Not to do it in front of other people. That's embarrassing. And I've seen it.
Yeah,
Nancy, Nancy and I being in the, traveling full time, we're in interesting situations all the time. We're often in the back room of something. That sounds bad, but because we're doing photography or whatever. So we're watching how a restaurant is run, a hotel is run, a shop is run, even museums and whatever. We're always seeing things happen. And especially in a high, like a restaurant is, like an ER, man, it's like fast moving,
Sure.
and energy is high. Chefs can really yell at you. I was a waitress and went through that. And do you get upset, or do you yell back at the chef, or do you go and make sure that the customer has the best service, and then outside later you duke it out? What do you do? So it is about not being, you don't do that to somebody else, because other people will take it and it's embarrassing too. It's their own personal growth. So I like that for sure. So here it is, everybody. Be Kind by Borgo.
Be strong for yourself and everyone else. Be strong. Come on. Yeah, come on. Be there for each other. Take care of each other and be kind. Yeah, You got to be strong. Pay for each other, find a way to help each other to survive. Make way for each other and stay with each other and get high. Remember what you say about each other is really just a mirror of your mind.